Is that Kim? Hi, Kim. I think maybe you have the wrong link. There we go. Okay, everybody. Hello. How are y'all today? I am here. I am Kristen Williams, and I'm very excited to share with Kim. I think that I might have sent you the wrong link.
Okay.
You email Caitlin Gamble.
Okay, I can do that.
I think I have you logged in as me, and you're not supposed to be logged in as me. So.
Well, I mean, I just want to be you, but I'll call Caitlin.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that.
No worries, thanks. I'm not trying.
Okay, everybody. Welcome to Experience Growth first session of this 4-part series, Xperience Live. We are super excited to bring you this course, and this course is really all about creating an integrated and harmonious life, one that is intentional, because really without intention, you cannot create a life full of experiences. So, just as you've probably heard, you have to let life happen to you, or you have to happen to life, or life is going to happen to you. And the same is really true with experiences. You just have to happen to experiences, or they're going to happen to you, and they will happen without intention. So today, what we're here to do is talk and learn about experiential living. Some people think that living experientially is really all about those big and grandiose vacations, and certainly it can be that. Yet how often do we live on vacation, right? Maybe a few times a year if we're honest, and then in between that we have life, right? So we want to be able to intentionally live experientially every day, every week, every month, so that living it intentionally and experientially is about how you really integrate your best self and life, and do that with intention. So we have a super awesome journey ahead of us over the next 4 weeks. We're going to talk about the 6 pillars that you need to have harmony with in order to live experientially. And then today, we're going to spend some time on each of those 6 pillars. And then in the following session, we're going to dive deep into all of the research that we've done around each pillar. We're going to work to create our own personal mission statement. And by the end of the 4 weeks, you'll have an experiential life outline and an action plan that's going to move you forward into living your best version of an experiential life. So I'm going to introduce myself. I am Kristen Williams, and I am married to the man on the screen, Carter Williams, and together we run the Experience Growth Coaching, a division within Xperience Real Estate. We also run a real estate team in Austin, Texas as well. And we have been married for 11 years. We have a 3-year-old daughter, and many of you know me, some of you may not. We also have another daughter in my stomach on the way that will be here in a few weeks. So, and then really long before we partnered with Xperience, Carter and I had been intentionally focused on living our lives through experiences. We've been coaches, we've been real estate agents, and then really living intentionally about living experientially. That's been kind of our passion, our mission, which is why we decided to partner. And it was such an alignment to partner with Xperience Real Estate. And Carter will be leading and co-leading some of the sessions, and then leading some of the sessions, and then we'll co-lead some too. So you'll see him on the next session. And when we were building out this course, I was really reflecting on and thinking about, when was it that we started to really live experientially on intention, with intention and purpose. And it was early on in our marriage. We read the book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. If you've not read that book, it's a really great book. And especially if you're in a marriage or a partnership, I highly recommend that's a book that would be on your reading list. Again, it's called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And in that book, we both realized that the gift of time was more important to us than the gift of things. So our aha around that was that we really like to receive gifts of love and time, and it really gave us permission to take the pressure off gift giving. So like holidays didn't become this pressure of like, what am I going to give as a gift? And we began to prioritize experiences over other things. So we started going on trips and day trips and dates, and just doing things experientially together, like going to a Broadway show versus buying each other a present. So that was really the beginning of our purposeful journey to live experientially. For instance, as a family, we love to do trips. And for Christmas this year, we gave our daughter, as you can see her pictured here, an Elsa suitcase because she's 3. And of course, a 3-year-old has to unwrap something at Christmas, right? So what we gave her was a suitcase, an Elsa suitcase, which she loved, by the way. And that was something that she was able to take to Hawaii for our real present together, which was a trip to Hawaii to have an experiential vacation together as a family of 3 before we become a family of 4. And then in business, we have a very deep personal relationship-based business as well, centered around the events for our database. So on our team, I love to create experiences for our members. So for example, every year, I love Christmas, but I love other holidays as well. We do a series of surprises for the team. It's kind of like a scavenger hunt, and we call it Christmas Surprise. And together we do activities. This year, for instance, we went axe throwing, and we spent the entire day together kind of doing surprise events, really focused around building relationships, which is one of the foundational pillars that we're going to dive into over the next 4 weeks as part of this experiential living course. We also believe that giving is experiential. So we added a component into our Christmas Surprise Day around giving back. So this Christmas, for example, at Christmas Surprise, we went to Build-A-Bear, and our team, each member of our team, you'll see them pictured over here, built their spirit bears at Build-A-Bear. Mine was a unicorn because I love the unicorns. And then we took those spirit bears and donated them to Foster Angels of Central Texas. And this act really focuses on our wealth pillar because in our course, Experiential Living, we define wealth by how we create opportunity and give back to others. So we really started living this experiential life on purpose and with intention, yet early on, it was really without a clear framework on how to do it or help others. And so over the years, we've created a lot more clarity around this and are bringing you a course that's created by ourselves in alignment and partnership with Chris Suarez. And overall, our alignment is to live intentionally and live experientially. It's a brainchild and passion project, and that's what we're bringing to you over the next 4 weeks. So let's go over some webinar logistics before we really dive in. We have a few class logistics I want to go over. You should have all received an email with the workbook. So check your spam. And in this link, what I'm going to do is post a copy of the workbook as well. You should have all gotten a copy of the workbook. And if you give me just a moment, I will post what I believe in the chat. I can share the link to our workbook, which I'm not sure if that's coming through or not. And if it's not, you can also email the email address coaching@xperience.com, and that will get you a copy of the workbook. But each week, you'll get a copy of that workbook. So there's also a chat function. So if you happen to have any questions, you are welcome to periodically type in questions. I'll do my best to have a few minutes at the very end of today's session, and at the end of every session, we'll be able to go through any questions that you may have. So we are going to lay out the framework of the course summary in the series and what you can expect over this next month, the month of March. So my hope is that since you've all received the workbook by now, I hope that you all have that, make sure that you're able to print and download that. Each week you'll receive a copy of that download, and each week it'll be a new workbook. And our goal is for you to print that ahead of time so that you can really take notes in this workbook. This is like a journal almost. And within 24 hours of each session, you will receive a link with a video recording of the session so you're able to watch the week session live. And then if you're not able to be on the session live, you can go back and watch it. Next, our expectation for you over the next 4 weeks is really, we want you to play full on. Be authentic, be engaged in this process, answer the questions for yourself honestly, so you can really begin to live in alignment with your vision of an experiential life, right? There will be an action plan at the end of every single session that you're gonna have to complete before the following session. Each session builds on top of the other. So our request is, whether or not you're watching this live or recorded, that you set aside time every week to really dive in. This course is an investment in yourself, so unless you invest in yourself with the investment of time, change is not going to occur, right? There's a quote that I love, and it's so true, and I feel like I repeat this to myself every time I go to an event or a training and I learn something. Education without implementation is just entertainment, right? Education without implementation is entertainment. And we're not here just to be entertained, right? We're here to become intentional about living an experiential life. So let's all together agree that we're going to commit and do the work. So next, what I would love for you all to do right now is write down when you're going to do this. So our courses are designed to do some thinking and workshop during the hour that we're on the webinar together. And then also you'll spend approximately an hour each week on your own in your weekly action plan. So right now, get into action. I want you to think about your week, think about your day, think about your schedule over the next 24 or 48, 72 hours, and write down when each week over the next 4 weeks you're going to make the time for this reflection part of the course. So knowing that you're going to need an additional hour beyond the hour that we're going to spend together on the webinar, when specifically are you going to fit that time in your week? So right now, think about that time and write in your workbook the when. Write that down. I know the thing is, as a professional coach, I know that if you don't have a specific win, like a WHEN win attached to an action, or when you have one, it's 75% of the time more likely to happen. So again, that's why I'm having you get into action right now, is when you get into action, it's more likely to happen. So now that you've done that, I trust you've written that down, you know when you're going to be doing that. Let's really dive into the meat, the content, the 6 pillars. So what we're going to do is share with you, and you'll see that on the screen on the slide, and it's part of your workbook as well, the 6 foundational pillars that we believe at Experience Growth you must have in order to satisfy and truly live an experiential life. After all of the research we've done, these are the 6 areas of life you must really focus on in order to live truly experientially. Furthermore, you must live with intention in these foundational areas of your life, and they are career, relationships, wealth, personal growth, health, and spirituality. And we define these at Experience Growth as the 6 pillars of living an experiential life. And our research, we've done a whole lot of research, and we'll bring a lot of that over. We're going to bring all that to you. Our research has shown that those who satisfy these pillars live a happier, healthier, fulfilled, and harmonious life, which is exactly what we've designed this course to help you discover. So, drivers. So in some areas, they're going to be more important to you. So that we'll get into this, and we're going to cover a lot of this. Yet in some of these areas, these 6 foundational pillars are going to be more important to you, and they're really going to be those pillars that create that drive inside you. Those are the foundational pillars are likely going to be different for each of us. The driver pillars are the top 2 pillars where the center of your life is really focused. And then other pillars are going to sustain you in your mission to live experientially. These would be kind of your mid-level pillars that you have intention around, yet they're not the drivers. They're not your primary 2 pillars, but they are very important. Finally, 2 of the pillars are going to be your maintainer pillars. Those are the pillars that you need to be sure that your wheels of your life are going to still run smoothly and without bumps. These pillars rank in the kind of your bottom priority, yet they're still very important foundational principles that cannot be ignored. So what we're going to do in session 3 is we're going to determine your own personal drivers, sustainers, and maintainer pillars, and we'll help you prioritize those 6 pillars of your experiential life through an exercise that we're going to do in session 3. So while the driver, sustainer, and maintainer areas will probably be different for each of us, we all need to pay attention to each pillar and know how they show up and need to show up in our life in order to create that experience that we desire. So what I'm gonna do is have a quick exercise for you guys. How about everybody take out their calculator right now. Make sure your phone is on like do not disturb, because I wanna make sure that we stay really present and focused in this time that we have together. And take out your calculator. And while you're getting them out, I'll share with you Paul Graham of Y Combinator. He says that we all have 30,000 days at best, 30,000 days. So on your calculator, I'm gonna have you do a little bit of a math exercise. Take your age and multiply that by 365. So your age, I guess I should not say, but 37. So by 365, that's how many days you have lived. So how many days is that for you? And write that down. For me, since I've already told you my age, I've lived 13,500 days approximately, probably a little bit more than that, but that's kind of a round, easy round number. And then I'm going to have you ask yourself a reflective question. Did you really live those days? Of the days that you have lived, have you really lived them? How did you use them? Did you waste them? Did you invest them? Let's be clear, nobody has a decade to waste. A decade is actually 3,650 days out of 30,000, right? That's a lot. So next math assignment is let's figure out how many days you have left. So what's that number? So out of the number of days you've lived, subtract from 30,000, that's how many days you have left. So go write that down in your workbooks. And for many of us, there are plenty of days where I walk more days than I have left to live. I can promise you right now, because I am very pregnant, I am not walking that many days because that's a lot of walking. I'm not walking that many steps a day. Yet pre-pregnancy, I do spend a lot of time on my feet typically, and I do walk a lot of days, or walk a lot of steps in a day. So sometimes I'm guessing for many of you, you might be in that same boat. So I find that really to be clearing of the head, clearing of the mind, awakening and expiring, right? Makes you kind of want to get into action. So let me share. Our organization, we talk about leadership a whole lot. And we talk about leadership with a different version of the definition leadership. We talk about it as providing a preferred path, or a path for a preferred future. So think about that. It's kind of a different way of looking at it, right? Yet, isn't that what leadership really is? Isn't that exactly leadership? It's providing a path for a preferred future, whether it be for yourself or for others. So yes, this course is all about living experientially, and aren't we just leading you? And in turn, you are leading yourself to a preferred future. We're all here taking this class together in this course because we have a preferred future. And likely we're in this together because our preferred future is a different path than the one that we're currently on, and we want to make some changes to make ourselves better, right? So living experientially is leading yourself to a preferred future. And as we partner together in this course, you are on a journey and we are going to be your guides, and we're very excited about that. So, as we've done a ton of research, as I've mentioned, it became clear to us some identifying key markers that experiential livers are clear on. They are clear on 4 things. First, they're clear on themselves. Second, they're clear on their relationships. Third, they are intentional with growth. And fourth, they have a strong desire to make an impact. When it comes to yourself, experiential livers are very clear on the preferred path for themselves. James Clear, he's the author of Atomic Habits. One thing he says is, he said, every action you take is a vote towards your future self. So those who have clarity on themselves take actions towards who they want to become. So think about this. Are your actions, are they votes that are in alignment with the who that you want to become? And are you clear on the who that you want to become? So just think about that. Every action, every decision is a vote. And then experiential livers, their clarity about relationships. So are you intentional with your relationships? And do you envision interactions with those people that you're in relationship before they occur? That can be relationships with your partner, your family, professional, clients, mentors. And we'll get into that because relationships is one of those key pillars. And then when it comes to growth, what does your growth path look like? And do you have clarity around that? Think about a flashlight versus a lantern. You can all envision that, right? A lantern lights your feet, just a few steps in front of you, right? And a flashlight, well, it's going to light the path. It's a stronger bulb, right? So are you seeing with a lantern, or are you seeing with a flashlight? Are you seeing your feet in just a few steps ahead of you, or are you seeing the path ahead? So that's what experiential livers are really clear on, what that growth path looks like. And then finally, experiential livers are clear on the impact they choose to make, and they deeply care about that impact that they're going to make. And so if you're taking notes, and I trust that you are because you have the workbooks, I trust, a great question you could ask yourself that Brendan Burchard suggests asking yourself every day, and he's the author of High Performance Habits, among a couple other great books and coaching programs. He asks himself every day, how can I serve with excellence today? And then a great question you can ask yourself is, and you'd ask this at the end of the day, how did I serve with excellence today? So write those questions down. How can I serve with excellence today? And did I serve with excellence today? So now we're going to take our conversation into each of the 6 pillars that we've defined as a foundational pillar for living experientially. And we are going to start with career. So in the context of career, we're going to focus on 3 main areas. Those are job, impact, or job, income, and impact. And I'm going to share with you Gary Keller, owner of Keller Williams. He recently shared a really great video at our convention, and it's gone viral. It's an interview with Kobe Bryant. It's really incredible, and it's insight into the mind of a true champion. At the beginning of the video, he was speaking in context of what he'll do after retirement. And he said this specifically. He said, follow your passion first. Ask yourself, what am I truly passionate about? And what do I enjoy doing? When you do that, you'll feel like you've never worked a day in your life. And if you dread going to work every day, you need to do something else. He said, you really have to be honest with yourself. And that's the key. You really have to be honest with yourself, right? He said, it's hard to make a decision. And once you do, it's a liberating experience, and the rewards will come. Just so you know, in the back of your workbooks, of the downloadable version of your workbook is the link to that video. It's about 7 minutes long. It's really incredible. So I definitely say go watch the whole video. It's really great. Yet at the very beginning, he was talking in the context of retirement. And that's so true. You have to be really honest with yourself. And it's based on statistics and all the research we've done, it seems like a lot of people really aren't honest with themselves. Today, did you guys know that 1/3 of workers are actually actively or casually searching for a job? It's 1/3 of people. 69% of employees say that they would work harder if they were appreciated. And only 15% of workers are engaged in their work. 81% of employees are considering changing jobs or leaving their job. And the thing is, changing jobs, it's not all about the money either. 74% of younger employees say that they would accept a paycheck for a chance to work at their ideal job. And a Gallup study shows us that highly engaged workplaces saw a 41% lower absenteeism. And then 33% of those changing jobs cite boredom and the need for new challenges as the top reason why they're leaving. So a job, it's where you spend 1/3 of your life. We spend 1/3 of our life working at a job. So we look at it from the 30,000 day exercise that we all have, that's 10,000 days. That's 1/3 of your life. Like, that's a lot of time, right? So when it comes to career, what is it that we need to evaluate? How have we created an experiential career for ourselves? These are questions we're going to ask you. And if you don't have an experiential career and you're not living the experience that you would like, then what needs to change? How do we evaluate that? So in your workbook on page 11, we're going to have an action plan. You don't have to turn to it right now. Yeah, I'm just pointing out that page 11 is going to be where we start our action plan. And we're going to have reflective questions around each pillar that's going to be part of your action plan for this week. So you'll ask yourself these reflective questions each week. Next, we're going to discuss our next pillar, relationships. So in the context of our lens of looking at relationships, we're going to look at it by 5 key relationships that matter and that are important. 1, mentors. 2, loves. 3, friends. 4, wealth determiners. and 5 professional relationships. And at the end of our lives, it's the relationships with others, with people, that's going to make the largest impact on us. And there is currently an ongoing research project called the Harvard Study of Adult Development. And we've heard it referred to as the Harvard Study of Happiness. So I'm not sure if you've heard of that. Again, we have that resource sourced in the back of your workbook. So if you really want to dive in, you are welcome to dive into the study. We've done a lot of research ourselves. And that study says that our lives depend on our relationships. From the moment we're born, we rely on others to help raise us, to nurture us, to care for us. No matter how independent or self-reliant we become, we will always accomplish more with the help of others. Yet achievements, that's only really the beginning. Robert Waldinger, he's a psychiatrist and he's currently the director of the study. The study was actually began in 1938 during the Great Depression. So it's a really long going study. So Robert is currently the director of the study, overseeing it right now. And fun fact about the study is President John F. Kennedy was one of the first original subjects. And right now there are only 19 of the original participants are still alive, and all of those are in their mid-90s. Scientists, they eventually expanded the research to include the children of the original participants, and they examined like vast medical records, hundreds of in-person interviews and questionnaires, and even brain scans. And the result became very, very clear. It's a ton of data on physical, mental, emotional health, and well-being. So when he was asked recently to present his conclusions on this long study, the longest study on this ever done, he cited one thing that came out loud and clear. He said, relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. When he gathered everything that they knew about the participants at age 50, he said it was not their middle-aged cholesterol levels that predicted how old they were going to grow. He said it was how satisfied they were in their relationships. And those that were the most satisfied at age 50 were the healthiest at age 80. So direct correlation in age, it's age to health, right? Age to the length of time living. So those good relationships, they don't just protect our bodies, they protect our brains, they protect our health. So that's why relationships is such a key pillar in living experiential. And we're going to dive more into it as we go through the 4-week course together. Next, as we move into our third pillar, we're going to lean into wealth. And in the context of wealth, we're going to focus on 3 things: opportunity, people, and giving. In regards to wealth, we really want to clarify something. Money and wealth are just not the same thing. Money is pieces of paper, it's numbers on a screen, it's a store of value. Wealth, on the other hand, is the value itself. And let me change slides. Hold on one second. Oh, relationships. I missed that slide, y'all. Wealth, there we go. To reference Paul Graham of Y Combinator, once again, he said that businesses aren't just about making money. People think that what businesses do is make money, yet money is just the intermediate stage for whatever people want. And that most businesses really do is make wealth. They do something for what people want in their future. It does not involve a lifestyle that people maintain or build. Those that live below their means enjoy a freedom that those that do not don't have. And the purpose of wealth, it's freedom. And you're not going to get it unless you really want it, that freedom. So money is how we transfer wealth. Money is that social credit that we get for exchanging services. In effect, we exchange money for time, right? Money for someone else's time. And as we like kind of dug into the research, we found there are 2 games that people play around the wealth game. One is the money game, and one is the status game. Wealth is not a zero-sum game. It's a very positive-sum game. As one develops wealth, others will as well. Yet status is a very zero-sum game. One person might gain status, another will lose it, right? So for instance, political or politics and sports, that's a very zero-sum game, and that's a status game, right? When somebody wins, someone else loses. And so you're always fighting or competing with somebody if you're in that zero-sum game. It's a very finite game, right? So through the lens of wealth, we're really going to look at wealth as an infinite game. We're going to talk more about that concept, but wealth in the infinite in the context of opportunity, infinite in people, infinite with giving, because wealth doesn't have to be finite. It can be infinite. So next, we're going to talk about our fourth pillar, personal growth. And we're going to evaluate personal growth by diving into mindset, environment, and curiosity. Those are the lenses of personal growth that we're going to really evaluate personal growth through. And so this might be something that you've heard before, yet I'll share it again. Research has consistently shown us that 90% or more of our success is our mindset. Has anybody heard that before? There's a ton of talk about mindset, right? And we ask ourselves, why is mindset so important? Like, why does your success in every area of your life really depend on it? Well, the reason is that your mindset is that fundamental belief that you hold to be true about yourself and the world around you. It's your lens, it's your perspective of yourself, of a situation, of the world around you. And Henry Ford, he said, I'm sure many of you have heard this quote before, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And this all comes from that lens of mindset and personal growth. So people with a growth mindset tend to be happier and healthier and tend to have higher rates of success in all categories. The main reason that growth-minded people are so successful is that they're solution-oriented people. They're learners, they're innovators, they tend to look for better paths. Also quite interesting is that depression in growth-minded people is so much lower. And the reason for that is if somebody has a depression, a growth-minded person with a growth mindset is going to likely look for a solution. So many growth-minded people get to the top of the success ladder based on their thinking. And we're going to dive into a lot of the research around the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. Again, that's a reference at the back of the book, and but a lot of the research on mindset comes from her studies. So she's a scientist and psychologist and has done a lot of studies around mindset. So we'll dig into what she has to share about that as we dive through the course together. And we know from neuroscience that as you learn, your brain grows and it creates new connections and new neural pathways. So those who focus on personal growth are healthier and happier, which is why personal growth is such a critical pillar in living an experiential life. Fifth pillar is health. And we must have our health in order for us to live, right? Like we can't live without health at some level. And we definitely can't live an experiential life without that. So in order to have the experiences in our careers and in our relationships and with wealth, our health is going to be so critical. Therefore, there are going to be 3 areas that we're diving into in regards to health. And those 3 lenses of health are going to be nutrition, movement, and rest. And we've done a lot of research, and it all sums up to this. About 70% of our health is shaped by the food that we consume. That would be our nutrition. 15% of that health is related to movement, and 15% related to rest. We've probably all heard this before. You are what you eat. And as we've done this research for the course, it's never been more obvious to me that there's so much truth in that. The nutrition, the movement, and rest, they're all interconnected, yet the fastest way to move the needle on health is to make better decisions around what we consume as fuel. And I'm going to be clear, this is not going to be a class course or a conversation on diet. I know that everybody needs different sources of fuel and nutrition, and I'm not a dietitian, so I'm not going to give you dieting or nutritional advice. Yet it is going to be a conversation around the decisions that we make that concern our diet, because that's all going to be different for everybody. Yet we all make decisions that are going to support us in our health or move us backwards in our health, right? And if I'm being completely honest with you, I am definitely, and not at all, 100%. My husband and my team will tell you that if somebody brings in like sweets or treats or cookies, and the environment that I'm in has something sugary sweets, I'm going to eat that. I'm just going to. So we have to talk more deeply about environment as we get into this course, because the environment really plays the biggest role in our decision making when it comes to our nutrition, right? James Clear, I've quoted him already once before. He's the author of Atomic Habits. really awesome book. And you'll hear me quote, and then this is a really great quote. It's probably his most famous quote is said, "Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior." Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. And that goes back to that environment of somebody brings in cookies to the office or bundt cakes or something, I'm gonna eat it. The environment has something that's not gonna support me hitting my goal, yet I haven't necessarily pre-made the decision not to eat it, right? So this will be a conversation around the decision-making process around what we choose to consume. Also, we're going to discuss movement and why movement in the body is so key to living experientially. It's movement partnered with rest, and it's rest for the mind and rest for your body. So all three of these areas in health are interconnected, and we need a combination of all three to live our best and most experiential life. Next pillar, spirituality. And we're going to be looking at spirituality through the lens of purpose, reflection, and stillness. Gary Keller, owner of Keller Williams, he says in his class Quantum Leap that he truly believes that we're spiritual beings having an earthly experience. And spirituality can mean a lot of things to each person. So we're really going to focus on that connection with the soul, the mind, the body, the soul, how they're all interconnected, and how spiritually we want to focus on the renewal of the soul. So as we walk through life and we walk through this journey that we want to live experientially, we must really understand what's that guiding purpose and really gain clarity around that to get our purpose. And people refer to this as their big why. You know, why are you here? Why am I here? What purpose will I serve? How will I serve myself? How will I serve others? So really focusing on that question, we'll answer that through some self-discovery as we journey together in these 4 weeks. And we also really dug into a book called Stillness is the Key, and that's by Ryan Holiday. Stillness is the Key. Again, it's one of our resource books. And in the book, he references countless events in history where leaders have really leaned into that reflection, that stillness of the mind in order to make the best decisions for their countries. Marcus Aurelius in Rome, he had his memoirs. Winston Churchill in Britain, and John F. Kennedy regarding the Cuban Missile Crisis. All of these leaders intentionally and deliberately took time to think and reflect and be still in their minds so that they were very clear on their purpose, they were clear on their outcome, and they were clear on the outcome that they could control, and so they could make the best decision. So that time and that stillness, it really allows us as humans to use time reflectively and opens us up to possibilities. So when the purpose of your life is clear and you spend the time to reflect and be still from within, the options for greatness open up. Options for breakthroughs open up. Options for collaborations, things that you might not have seen coming, are going to happen when you are still in your mind. And unlike it's as we're in this busy world with lots of noise, if we don't take that time to reflect and be still, we're never going to hear that. So that's why we're really going to focus on those three lenses: purpose, reflection, and stillness when it comes to spirituality. So as we finish going through these 6 pillars to live experientially, what we're going to do is take a much deeper dive into each of these pillars and the research around each pillars next week. Today was kind of like, if I'm giving you an analogy, a snorkel lesson on each of the pillars, right? Just kind of like snorkeling on top of the surface of these 6 pillars and why they're valuable and why they're important. And next week, we're going to scuba dive into each of the pillars. And what we're going to do in sessions 2, 3, and 4, we're going to build out our own personal mission statement and create an experiential life action plan. We're going to be defining which pillars are our drivers, our sustainers, and our maintainers. So again, like I talked about at the very beginning of our sessions, we're going to do a lot of self-reflection. So that stillness is the key, no pun intended with that book, but having that stillness, having that time to really reflect and think is going to be so key in order for us to really grow in this course together. Because the class together that we're all together on, this webinar, is where we're going to be kind of trained and learn, yet you're going to grow so much personally as you do the coursework and come prepared for the following sessions. So today, what we went through, Feel free, by the way, to ask any questions you may have in the chat box, because we've got a little bit of time here at the end. I'm going to walk you through some of the things that we're going to be going through, and I want to make sure that if you have any specific questions, we can answer them here in the last few minutes we have left. So just kind of summing up what we accomplished today. Today we learned, how many days out of the 30,000 days we have, how many we have left to really make an impact. And we dove deeper into the context of what experiential livers are clear on. They're clear on themselves, they're clear on relationships, they're clear on growth, and they're clear on impact. We shared what the 6 foundational pillars are to living an experiential life. And each of us are going to define living experientially differently. So we're on this journey together to determine exactly what is your true definition. What do you define living experientially? Because you may define it differently than I do. I'm not may, you will, you do. You are going to define it differently than the way I'll define it. So we just really want to make sure that you walk away from this course with clarity on what you're going to do to live life versus allow life to live you. In the next session, we're going to dive deeper into those 6 pillars. Like I said, we'll start to work on our personal mission statement. And if you already have one, some people have already put one together, we're going to do it again. Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says that he has a really great, thorough process for coming up with the mission statement. Many of you may have done that before, but we're going to go through sort of his process and a version of another process too that we've put together to collaborate and put together something that's pretty awesome for you guys. But he says to revisit your mission statement regularly. You're continuously growing. We're growing as we go through this course together. So what you put together as your mission statement maybe a year ago, 5 years ago, might be different. So he recommends revisiting it regularly, and that's what we're going to do as we work through everything together. So next, what I want to do is cover and go over the action plan so that you have clarity on the specifics of what you're going to be doing in your reflection and stillness time as you prepare for session 2 over the next week and you spend your hour in reflection. So before we do that, I just want you to take a moment to think. Write down in your workbooks, what's one thing that you're taking away from today? Like, what did you learn? What resonated? What was an aha that you had from today's session? And write that down. That's one thing. Maybe it's a takeaway. Maybe it's something you're going to do differently. Maybe it's a perspective that you see differently. Whatever that is, write that down so that you can really identify what that is and you can start to make changes now. And then next, if you hadn't already written down the time that you're going to calendar each week for your hour, I want you to go ahead and really get intentional around when that's going to be. Make sure that that's something that you do as soon as we log off of this course together. I just know how important it is to have a win, like a WHEN win, attached to what you're going to do as an action, right? And then I want you to think, as everything that we've talked about in regards to all of these pillars, these 6 pillars: career, relationship, wealth, personal growth, health, spirituality. What's one action that you can take this week to live experientially? So as we were going through them, I'm going to suspect that there were some things that popped into your head, some things that you could do differently, some things that you could do to live experientially on your terms, in your version. So it can be something small. I mean, we have a week to do this, so I want you to do something this week to live experientially. And again, it does not need to be a grand action. It can be as small as doing something to nurture a relationship that maybe you've neglected or you haven't poured into the way you know you need to. It could be going to get yourself, from a spiritual, personal growth, or health perspective, going to get yourself a pedicure or a manicure, or starting to read a book, download a book on Audible, or go get a book. It could be planning out your summer vacation because you haven't maybe fully committed to what you're going to do, or it could be deciding to do a meditation or go to your place of worship. Whatever it is, big or small, I just want you to think about what's one thing that you can do this week so that you can do that. And I want you to write it down. Write down what that action is going to be, and I want you to calendar it. Look in your schedule. So like if you know that you're going to go to church, then maybe that's oftentimes for many of us on a Sunday. So go ahead and put that in your schedule. If you know you're going to meditate or you're going to go buy a book or download a book, when is that going to happen? What are you going to do? What is the book going to be? Well, the more specific you can be about the action plan and the action you're going to take, the more likely it's going to happen. And then again, we're going to put a win to it as well. And then I want you to write down, what pillar is that going to satisfy? What pillar do you need to work on the most? So think about that action and write that down. And then after you've done that, what I'll do is I'll walk you through the questions that you're going to reflect on over the next week. So we have the same question for each pillar so that we can get you to start thinking in context of like what you can do to really have a great impact and improvement in each area. So the question would be, in the context of career or relationships, wealth, and so on, what is the single most important thing that you can do that it will have the greatest positive impact on your career or relationship or wealth? So think about that. So that's what you're going to ask yourself. Those questions are starting on page 11 and trickle through the rest of the workbook together. So those are the 6 questions you're going to ask yourself. The same question just in regards to each pillar so that you can begin to start thinking about what is it that you can do differently to live more experientially around each pillar. And we're going to dive more. This is a kind of like an onion unfolding. We're starting a very high level, and we're going to dive deep each session. In each session, we're going to go a little bit deeper. And then the final question that you're going to ask yourself is, what and how do you define living experientially? Define what experiential life means to you. So I want you to spend some time thinking about what that means to you. And so you don't have to answer that question now. I'm certainly happy to have you share your work with us. We'd certainly love to see what you guys come up with and how you're making changes and seeing a positive impact. Yet again, this is all a very personal journey. So if this is not something that you feel like you want to share, definitely, again, this is an interpersonal. Make sure that you're being really authentic. Make sure you're playing full on. Make sure that this is something that really is allowing you to be present and you're listening to your heart and exactly what it is that you need and want to do in order to live that best life and choose to live life versus just let life pass you by. So a very quick review of our schedule. Our next sessions together are going to be next Wednesday, same times, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, and 11 a.m. Pacific Time. So we've got March 11th, March 18th, March 25th. So make sure that you calendar those times. Again, if you're unable to attend the webinar live, we will send out the recording to you within 24 hours, so you can always watch it the day before. And then the day before, I believe, you will get an emailed copy of the workbook, so you can download the workbook as well. So I'm going to go check to see if we have any questions in our chat. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in as we begin to wrap up. And then again, if you have any questions, you can email coach at, let me just double check the email address. I think it's coaching@xperience.re.com. Let me tell you that one more time. Yes, coaching@xperience.re.com is the email address. If you have any questions, had any trouble logging into the webinar, anything of that nature, feel free to email us and we will get back to you. We are super excited about this 4-week journey that we're going to take together. Next week, we're going to really dive deep on these 4 pillars and again, get started on what our personal mission statement is, and then really just continue to unfold the onion and dig deep. So I don't see any specific questions. So what we will do is just say thank you for being a part of this. And next week will be Carter and myself co-hosting the course. Oh, looks like I have a quick question. Or somebody just saying thank you. So I appreciate that. And it's been really a joy to put this together and journey with you guys together. So thank you for being here. If there's anything you guys need, feel free to let me know.